I am shifting gears.
All right, well, let's call the February 11th meeting, February 11th, 2014, of the Acton School Committee to order at this time. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? The only adjustment that I have is to add a very brief executive session pursuant to personnel.
And I have a question. Because I see this periodically a couple times, like I remember Ken's PLC article. I see we have another article about the Common Core in here, and I don't see where we discuss that on the agenda.
I think it was just something that I didn't I mail it to
It
you in
was
the
something
paper?
that
It
was,
was just,
it was just something that was sent out for FYI, I think,
Yeah,
for the
that's all.
board.
There was no-
But
I gotcha.
but you can talk about it if you want. I hear so much about it on the outside from other people that are.
And I think it's, and I agree, and I like having little things like that to discuss, but if it's not on the agenda, we may not discuss it.
Well,
So-
no, that's a workshop item. So
Oh,
you're
so
setting up
that's
the
here.
next
You
workshop,
can
aren't you?
talk, yeah.
Okay, well, I can see maybe going under unfinished
That's
business.
what it says.
I got a few comments about it.
I'm sure you do.
What does this say? Kevin Perks preparing agenda for school committee work.
That's for the next workshop though, right?
You know that?
Yeah, that
Did you
one-
know that?
You're doing the
I do.
agenda for the next workshop.
I have a question about that, so, but I will wait till we get to number 9.
Oh,
I can
okay.
wait.
All right. Now I'll ask
Thank you.
for approval of the minutes of our January 14th meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved as written. Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Any comments from the public tonight? Got a nice big public, we should have a couple of comments, no? Okay, communications and correspondence. I think the only thing that we have are those things that he copied and gave to us, which we will. Some information on extended school year and on Common Core, which we will take a look at our next budget workshop meeting. I mean, not budget workshop, school board workshop meeting.
Right.
Okay, superintendent's report, you have in front of you,
Did you want to read it? He usually reads it.
yeah, okay. This is from Ken. I'm hopeful that the depth and quality of the preparations that went into the formation of the superintendent's budget draft as delivered on 1/28/14 will allow the community to move forward with the budget deliberations in a very constructive and informative way. While my wife's rescheduled surgery has taken me away from the area on 2/11/14, I am confident that Tricia, Kim, Michael, and Tracy will be able to answer any questions that relate to the 14-15 budget needs for Articles 5 and 6. If anything that comes up that needs my immediate attention, let me know, and I will be addressing those issues at the end of the week when I return to the Acton School office. I applaud the school committee members for their presence and good contributions to the many meetings that are occurring currently. The stipend committee is finalizing amounts to be included in the new budget, but is also looking to streamline the process for future years. The school committee has added a second retreat meeting on the calendar for 2/16/14, so as to continue the productive educational discussions that were started on 1/27, and I thank Kevin Perks for his assistance in preparing the agenda. Thank you, Kevin.
Just in case.
Our students have passed the 100-day mark in our school calendar with flying colors. While there are now less than 80 days left to finish the year and attain all the learning standards that have been set, I am confident that the enthusiasm of the students and professionalism of the teachers will result in the progress and completion that we seek. Due to the third snow day that we called on 2/5/14, the projected last day of school is now Wednesday, June 12th. And that doesn't count this coming Friday. To further explore the calendar discussions, Tricia Bogan and I have just started working with Sanford in preparing the first draft of the 14-15 school year calendar. We will share it with the Acton teachers in March before seeking school committee approval in April. For my quote for the month, the following words are from Barbara Hall, a prolific TV scriptwriter. The path to our destination is not always a straight one. If we go down the wrong road, we get lost, we turn back. Maybe it doesn't matter which road we embark on. What matters is that we embark.
Remember that.
a
Should
win.
recite that.
Right. And then
Progress monitoring reports. Do we have anything on the strategic plan? That'll be coming up after, maybe there'll be more after our next workshop meeting. Let's go on then to administrative reports.
Who do you want?
Tricia?
Well, I'm a little nervous with Ken's prediction as to when the last day of school is because I've been watching Thursday's forecast. So, you know, with that in mind, we're also looking at next week being a February break. Between the two breaks, we have now for I think 3 or 4 years offered extended activities after school to get through what is usually the mud season. Although this may be the frozen season until April, I don't know. So we've got Legos and volleyball and a gardening group going, amongst other things. A drama club will be offered. So again, hoping to gauge many of the students after school between sports seasons as well as we wait for signs of spring to arrive. We are working on our celebration of the 100th day. The Student Council has been organizing the food pantry donations this year. In light of some challenges economically in the town, we have pushed the donations to be more collective through the school rather than an individual class 100 basis. Jen, do you know what the total is at this point?
Our last count was 602,
Okay,
and
so
our goal was 500 for the whole school, so.
Was
So-
that before what the school committee brought in
Correct.
tonight?
So, awesome. So we've exceeded the goal. I also mentioned Nick Sprague-Town went to Sanford Junior High last week to represent Acton School in the York County Spelling Bee. He was a little bit nervous, but still finished middle of the pack, which is very exciting for him. Teachers are continuing to work together and independently in aligning the curriculum. Last Friday's afternoon early release day was spent on teachers again working with their curriculum to bring things to the Common Core standards and identifying what assessments they will be using to measure meeting the standards in their classes. And finally, I want to say that Kristen and I had a wonderful opportunity last week to kind of ride on the coattails and shadow Kennebunk's teachers under the great production of Kevin Perks. And it was really wonderful for Kristen and I because Kennebunk is doing similar things, but they're at a different point. Many of the teachers that we talked to, it was surrounding a lot of learning about how to improve instruction, how to measure student progress, with teachers talking to teachers. So the professional learning communities, the PLCs that we've been talking about here, our school appears to have the common planning time having been longer established than many of the Kennebunk schools. But under some of the workshop guidance of Kevin, they're learning how to be more productive. And Kristen and I saw this is a learning opportunity not only for us, but for the rest of the staff, how to take that to a new level. So that again, we're really looking at transparency of lessons, talking teacher to teacher about what they're trying to achieve in the classroom and how to really talk about whether it's being achieved. And I think one of the things that I've said before is Acton is blessed with a lot of talented teachers. And sometimes the hard part of being really good is it's hard to get to that next level of excellence. And you can't do that without each other. Our staff is on a strong path of sharing. You saw presentations here last month about what the teachers are doing. I really think that what we saw last week encouraged Kristen and I. We talked to the teacher leaders today in our teacher leader meeting about what we learned, and we have some new excitement about everything from the RTI to assessments, and really working on ourselves getting to that next level. So it was really exciting for us. I was grateful for the opportunity, and the price was incredible.
Was it?
Yeah, free. Love free.
It's good.
Anybody have any questions, Patricia? Thank you very much, and let's go to Joy.
Thank you. I'll start with professional development. On our early release day on Friday, Sarah Teskey, our educational consultant, who's helping us with behavior plans and actually students with autism as well, and providing that data collection experience and training for our staff. She came to our school on Friday, as I said, and provided that workshop to the ed techs. And it was dedicated to positive behavioral interventions so that the ed techs could have more tools in their toolbox to work with our students who are behaviorally challenged. And also, what I didn't, in terms of staff development, which I didn't add to your report, Bess, Karen, the school counselor, and I attended a workshop on executive function, which was very informative. And it just kind of re-fired us, or retooled us, if you will, in working with kids with working memory issues. And it was very, very informative, and I felt well worth it. And I know Bess did too. Bess did a great job of outlining the entire workshop and sending it off to the teachers to give them also the strategies and tools to work with. And the special ed teachers attended a workshop on aligning the curriculum, aligning IEPs to the Common Core curriculum. And this is the second in a series of 3 workshops. And they're actually, they have started writing IEPs according to the standards. So we're really excited about that. And it's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. And then the special ed audit and fiscal monitoring, as I reported to you last month, we completed and submitted all the required program and fiscal monitoring documentation to the Maine Department of Ed. But that segment of the audit was a self-eval. And what we have, or what I would like to implement is an action plan. I would like to create an action plan that will help us, and we've identified some areas of improvement, that will help us become more efficient and really demonstrate to the constituents and also to the Department of Ed that we are about continuing improvement, and that we want to be proactive in whatever issues that are discovered, if you will. There are some things in the audit that, or some of the requirements that are new on the part of the department, so we would not have known that those things to implement. But if we, before they come in March, show them that we have this corrective action plan, I think that it will serve us well, and also obviously serve the students well. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now, creating the database and the models for the written prior notice that we have to send to parents. And actually, most everything that we do, content related, is very good programming. It's really the procedural, putting this here and putting that there on the IEP, but the content of what we do is stellar. It's just making sure that we align with the state's standards in terms of procedure. So, and that's the end of my report.
I have a question with regard to the educational consultant. It says we hired her,
Yes.
but is she more like per diem type of thing?
Yes, per day. She's a consultant that comes twice a month. She's been coming twice a month now. We may not need her in the future to do that, but she's working with the teachers and is helping to write behavior plans, and again doing professional development. And we're using the grant money to support that.
Any other questions for Joy? Thank you very much. Kim?
Well, my budget, a lot of it you've seen. My report is
We've seen what
budgetary.
you've been up to.
That's it. But it's, along with working on all the budgetary processes, I have implemented the majority of Blackbaud. In fact, our first warrant check run with all our payables was with this check run that's going today, which went really well. And, but a lot of, like, I have all my accounts receivable all up and running up to today for the whole fiscal year. AP's up and running. The budgetary information's in. Payroll is pretty well set up. We use the old system to do payroll, and we can actually do what we call a dummy system in ours,
Right.
just to see, make sure they match. So February vacation will be a lot of that, and basically the last piece is putting in our beginning trial balances to watch the whole thing flow out. And then a lot of your reports, like all the budgetary information that we are putting together right now, that will actually all be within the system. So instead of using Excel spreadsheets, it'll actually come right out of the software. So it's been busy.
Yep.
And we're working, and I did spend some time with certain staff members trying to figure out ways to, like next year, they have the support staff can either go 22, 26, or pay as you go, and we're working on tailoring that to make sure that works without having to get into redoing our contract, which would be good. So there's a lot of personnel issues that we're doing too, so I'm doing too, so that we can. And that's where I
So you're
have
happy
been.
with the new system?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nice coming out of the dark ages.
Coming out of the antique shop?
Yeah, well, and especially knowing that all the pieces can all tie in. So, like, our purchase order system, next year a teacher wants to come in, wants to know exactly what they bought, I just sort by their name and print out all their purchase orders. So everything's there in detail. It'll tie back to their particular line item. It'll work. It'll work.
Efficiency.
Now I'm excited to get it. I just need to get that payroll over the hump, and then we'll be good. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for all the work you've been doing on that, making that transition.
I don't have a copy of the agenda, but there are students and
Yep.
teacher over here. Are they?
They're coming in very shortly.
All right.
We're just about finished with this.
I
and-
think she was going first. I totally forgot.
Well,
to
we
bring it
can,
up.
we can put you and Andy on the other side of the,
It's fine.
Yeah.
We can stop.
yeah, we'll stop here and
Yeah.
They've been waiting.
make a
Sounds good.
change in the agenda and bring in
I thought I was gonna go to
the
bed.
celebration of learning.
It's kind of late. Celebration. They should be home in
Heck with
bed.
Andy.
What did you say?
Should they be home in bed now?
All of us.
And Judy, it's Judy's fault.
You mean they've been waiting all this time?
Oh, no.
They've been waiting all this time?
Somebody should have came and told us. Set up.
You can sit over there. It's easy.
Will they be able to see on the?
I'll try to.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I wanted to let my fourth graders, we have representatives from Miss Whitney's fourth grade class. Our fourth grade class is working on some marble roller coasters as
we
well as
angle
some
them right in this so the
scientific
camera can get 'em?
exploration. We also had some representatives from Miss King's class.
How about if we could just bring it over here so that
Angle
the
it.
camera could pick it up?
Oh, okay.
Would that be good? So that you can
Get
see
past
what
the cord.
we're up to.
It's okay.
You put it right in front of us.
Oh, no, Mason. And since this is all about the kids,
You want to move this way?
I will let the students do the talking.
No, I'm all set.
So she can move on, no?
Oh, she's gonna go over there.
Fourth grade? Is that what this?
Yes. Good evening, Acton School Committee. My classmates and I have been building marble roller coasters and learning about Isaac Newton's laws of motion. We have made many prototypes. Some of them worked successfully and some of them had errors.
The first law of Newton is that an object that is in motion tends to stay in motion, and an object at rest tends to stay at rest. The way the roller coaster shows that is when we put the marble in, it goes down the tube, and it goes down the hill and moves faster and faster, and it stays moving. That is how it shows part of Newton's first law.
We learned that in order to have loops or sideway curves, your model must gain speed, or as Mr. Newton called it, acceleration. Newton's second law tells us that the greater the acceleration of an object and the greater the mass, the greater the force. This allows the marble to stay on the track and not fall off.
Anyone have any questions for them?
Anybody have some questions for our students tonight?
Can we get their names and what grade?
Could you give
Introduce
us your
yourself.
names and your group?
I'm Mason, and I'm in 4th grade.
I'm Celia and I'm in 4th grade.
Great job.
Mason and Celia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Phyllis.
So did you start out at one point where you made a roller coaster and it didn't work?
Yes.
What happened?
It either the track broke and it fell off, or it was just tilted like this. It just fell off.
And it just, so you actually thought about which ways to redo your track so you can make it so it worked?
Yes.
What was one of the hardest things to do?
Probably getting the loops to work.
Yeah, probably getting this and the loop to work.
Getting the loops to work?
The loop to
What happened when they didn't work?
Either the marble would stop, roll up here, and then come back down, or it would just get stuck here.
They usually stopped because it didn't have enough speed or it wasn't adjusted right.
Very good.
So you figured out how to make it go faster?
Yes.
We have on the side a big really long
Hill.
hill.
You guys almost needed a stepladder for your hill. I was wondering who was going to reach up there. Nice job.
That's good. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's lots of marbles all over the classroom. I often told them I have lost my marbles. Thank you.
Hey, Squid.
Funny thing, as soon as you pick the camera, it's wrong.
Oh, yeah,
And while we're on celebrations of learning, before we go on to those other two reports, I brought tonight a copy of last week's Observer, and I just wanted to congratulate former students that are mentioned in here. There's a section in here called Local Students Achieve at College, and there are several in here from Acton. Stephanie Knight, from the University of New Hampshire, high honors. Greg Mitchell, highest honors. Kristen Rivard, highest honors. Marcessa Miles.
Marissa.
Marisa. Okay, they spelled it wrong. Was named to the Dean's List at the University of Vermont. Hase Mies, a junior majoring in mechanical engineering, was on the Dean's List at Worcester Polytech. Luke Dione of Acton, senior majoring in engineering, named to the Dean's List at Clarkson University in New York. And Natalie Dione to the Dean's List at Ithaca College. So congratulations from the school committee and the school staff to all of these former students who are achieving and doing so well as they move on to college. It's exciting to follow them. We're going to try to do a little more with that as a committee this year, but as I was reading through that, it was like, wow, all these from Acton, this is awesome.
Jed Scott was offered a full football scholarship to Assumption College this past week. They offered him.
Awesome.
If he had offers from other schools, they gave him a full scholarship. He'll be with
We'll
Alex.
be with Alex.
Yeah.
Well, Alex is in here too, but
Yeah.
just because he's my grandson, but
Yeah.
he's not from Acton, so I didn't. Okay. Then let's go back now to our last two reports. We'll hear from Michael.
Alright, as Trish was mentioned, everybody's kind of talking about the curriculum. I've been working with Trish and all the teachers trying to develop a unified format to help gather the teachers' lesson, curriculum, and targeting goals for each standard. So I finally successfully completed that, K through 8. Every subject has every standard, main learning result, what have you, the national level, national standard, national core, common core standard. So that is, so now it's to the teacher's responsibility to fill it in with the data, the curriculum data, the information that they need, they have that targets the core or the standard to help give us a clearer idea of our curriculum and if we have any holes. I've worked with the teachers and Trish to make sure everybody's happy with the end result. Actually printed one out for Trish to look at.
I expect to have a draft for the school board at the March meeting that you can see the outline where teachers have started filling in the material and the progress. You'll be able to see in a few months' time how much more is done. But it's important to have the format so you can look at, whether it's kindergarten or 8th grade, that you can see the essential skills that are being taught at each grade level, and the teachers begin to identify the assessments that they're using to measure the success of the student, and that will also impact what they're going to instruct as they do formative assessments. So you'll see that format being built at the next meeting.
Awesome.
Moving on, I've been working with the technology committee. We've continued our communications, trying to develop a technology plan. A survey has been posted in the last release of Pressing Pause. It's also online. We've only collected about 10 so far from the public, 10 survey results from the public. With that data, I'm hoping to move forward with a few more of the paragraphs in the technology plan that are required. But I wanted some input from the public and to help with our direction in moving forward. I've started developing the new website. Working on designing the new website now. I don't have anything online for the public to see as far as live content, but I'm trying to make it look like Sanford's, so we kind of have a unified design or scheme, but maintaining our Acton School, feel. I'm trying to make, the pretty little drop-down menus and maintaining our kids' corner links and stuff like that. And trying also to make it a more user-friendly, navigatable site. So when you're looking for something, you're gonna find it easily. With that, I also redesigned Kids Corner. It's a I don't know how long ago I started building this. 2008, 7, 8. I developed Kids Corner. It's a collection of online educational resources. We have over 1,200 online resources now available through Kids Corner. It was broken down kind of chaotically, kind of messy. It's hard to find everything you're looking for. I have now broken it down by teams. So you got a K2 section, a 3-5 section, and a 6H section. And then underneath that, you'll find the subject matter, and underneath that, you might find even more subject matter, like U.S. history, or the state of Maine, or motion and science. So it's a really good, useful resource for students and teachers to use. There's a lot of teacher resources available in there too, like smartboard tools, and a lot of how-tos and help resources. And I guess the last thing is I'm starting to design systems for next year already. Looking forward to the development and the deployment of next year's systems to hopefully make them as robust and as stable as possible, and potentially as unified as possible, so everybody's using the same piece of software as we discussed earlier.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions?
Plenty
Sounds
busy.
good. Sounds like you don't have much free time on your hands, too. But what's new, huh? Okay, let's go on to facility and maintenance.
Our quarterly water sample was taken on February 4th. Johnson & Jordan was in to do a midwinter check on our boilers and heating system on February 4th as well. Tonight I'm recommending to the committee that the long-term planning committee tables its business until budget season is complete. The next item on my report is giving some credit to the custodial staff. The custodial staff continues to do a fantastic job on our building. I've had a couple vendors come in the past month, one of those vendors being Cleanorama out of Westbrook. And Cleanorama distributes cleaning supplies to hospitals and schools all over the state of Maine. And the salesman that was in this past month just commented on how good the building looked. And he was very impressed compared to a lot of other schools that he visits. And that's because of the effort that the guys put in on a daily basis. All three of the guys have very positive attitudes. We have a very strong team approach this year, and I'm just very pleased with the effort that they put in every day. Jim Wood, who is our day custodian, also has stepped up, and he does a writing club with the kids after school one day a week, which demonstrates the above and beyond approach that these guys take. So I really appreciate what they do, and I just want to mention to the committee that, we've got some very good people in place. The next item on the report is, since January was not a real snowy month, it gave me the opportunity to do some online training. I took a couple online training seminars which Honeywell puts out for pneumatic controls, which basically what that entails is the heating control systems, the computer program which controls the system. It's helped me better understand the system And as a result, this year, we've had less, I've not had to call in outside contractors as much, which is good, and the training is free. And that's about it.
When will we hear back about the water samples? Have you heard? How
We
long does
get
it take?
the test results in quarterly as well. Basically, we've been on quarterly testing now for a number of years, which is, requirement from the state.
No, I know, but I mean, what were the results? Do you know yet?
Our water test results have all been coming back with no problems.
So you already heard back from the one on February 4th, and
No.
it's okay? No, that's what I'm asking.
It usually
When-
takes 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Anybody got any questions for Andy?
Place does look good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to number 8, committee reports. Anything from the long-term planning committee? No? We're waiting till after the budget season?
Yes.
And let's look now for the policy committee. We've got a first reading of the attendance policy.
This is, most of this and all of it is requirement of the state. We just kind of follow what the state guidelines. We needed to update the student tendency and truancy policy. So this is the first reading. Anybody find any?
I can just point out that the biggest thing is that we've taken what would appear to be 2 or 3 different interpretations of policies or partial policies and tried to streamline them into one.
Right.
And make the procedure easier to enforce. But also for Ryan and I, when there's the policy and then there's procedure, and I try to send letters out to parents in advance of hitting any kind of truancy law so that they get fair warning and a chance to talk to me about why their student's been absent or tardy or dismissed so much. And it's working. My phone was ringing off the hook in the last few days because several letters went home. So parents are taking it seriously, and it is my hope that that'll increase the attendance and decrease the truancy.
So we want to call this the first reading? Is
Yep.
this
Want to make a motion to
okay?
accept it for a first reading?
Yeah. We'll make a motion that we accept the first reading of student attendance and truancy.
Question on that one?
All right?
In regards to just the coding of it? There's no coding
No,
on
I know, there's no code on that. I don't know why didn't I put, in the book, there is a section in the book.
on that.
Probably should just be placed on top there. I don't remember what it is now, but
And are we still, I know we were last year, just checking in, are we still, as we do these, digitalizing and putting them in
Yeah, I
digital?
was gonna mention that, there is online, all of these policies are online, and they're all organized.
All the new ones or all of them?
That's where I don't know where it stopped. I know the last ones that I put in 2 years ago, there was like 15 of them. They went to a draft folder online, and then they went into their appropriate folders. I don't know how many policies you guys have approved that haven't made it
If you put them
online.
in the last couple of years, there probably have been either new policies that were added
Or
or they were
amended
revised
policies.
Amended.
Right,
policies,
and I don't know
yeah.
what has been approved or what has been, so it would just be a matter of maybe looking back at,
It needs a little secretarial
Sounds
type
like
of
a
attention.
job for the policy committee.
yeah.
It really does.
Well, I
look
think,
in the book, there's so
I-
many
I
loose
think-
parts because
I think Donna was working on getting all those, putting the policy manual, making it available online,
And
so I don't
and
know
it
just
is
how
all
far she
available
got.
online, minus when they departed, anything that has come in new really
Come in
hasn't
new
made
since then.
made its way back online because it was Donna or I who put the policies online,
Right.
so. So I don't know what has, gone through the policies.
And if you're following Sanford's format on the website, then there'll be a place on there where you can just click on and pull up those policies as well, correct? You can on Sanford's anyway.
You can on ours too.
Yeah.
You can just go to whatever the code is and the description,
Yeah,
go in there
description,
and
yeah.
find it.
By section.
But as of right now, because I know the binder's pretty thick,
Right.
Yeah.
but the digital version's probably not as robust yet.
It is.
Oh, it is, all the policies in the binder are online?
He's saying the new ones,
The new
he's not
ones.
sure.
Ones that have come on.
Yeah.
That's what we need to.
So as policies are being amended and updated, they're not, those changes aren't being
Right,
made?
being posted online because.
So how do you know where to go back and how do you know where you stopped and how do you know what I mean?
We really have to
Today.
change.
You know
that the policies they're reading
You
are
just
on
have to
different.
look at some of the school board committee meeting minutes to see,
What-
to go back for a while and see what new policy, you know.
But I can dig
Could-
through, I
Go through the
potentially
minutes.
could dig through the, our current policies online, see the last one that was,
Right.
put
can
up
see the
by
date,
the
right.
date
Oh, yeah.
that was modified, and, then from then just.
That's great though, Mike. That's
Oh,
great.
That would be, yeah,
That
absolutely.
would be good.
Every time we try to revise something
good
or
idea.
update it, some new policy comes down from this, I mean, there's so many different things that we run into, like, for example, the concussion policy, you know, I mean, every time we think we're getting something straightened out.
We need a
something
policy for
else-
updating our policies.
Oh, that's right, we need a policy for updating the policies, yeah, I mean, you know,
And
it
then we got
just,
something from MSMA this past week
yeah.
or so that
That listed
that
all
listed
the-
all the policies that are supposed to be in our book. I don't know if you get that, Michael? No.
That would be a good thing to cross-check with
I'll,
what's online.
yeah.
that
Never
list.
gonna- yeah.
I'll
They're the
send
ones
that
that
to
are
you,
supposed-
send that
Some-
down to you.
Some of them are back
Jeanette's been
from
on that committee
96 and
for
97.
12 years, she should have it memorized by
Well, I
now.
got the book pretty much in order, I penciled in a lot of things.
I bet you
Every
did.
every
Best
time-
book.
It's on the policy committee right now.
Jeanette,
Okay.
can-
Kinda, I've been
Yeah, you
truant.
can look through my book and see what I've
Truancy
done.
policy, right?
Get a letter in the mail? I want your
Yes.
mother to call.
There were
Joy.
We can
a few
get Crystal
policies
to
that I
work
needed
with
to
that.
provide as a result of that audit request for information. So I know that the physical restraint and seclusion was adopted by this board, but I did not
That was
find it
one that I-
on the website. And the one that I had did not have adopted by date, the hard copy I had, so I think that was under Betsy. And there are a couple of others that probably will need to be updated.
Yeah.
Because when I researched, they were in need of updating in terms of referral process for special ed. So I will get that list and go on MSMA to get the most recent ones that they're approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, did we vote on this?
No, we don't even have a second yet.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved by Jeanette, seconded by Kevin to accept student attendance and truancy for a first reading. Any discussion?
Just that we're gonna add the coding on the
Going to
top.
add the coding.
The code.
Yeah.
And, yep, and make sure we'll have the approved by on it
Well,
also.
I don't think we need to vote on these. These are just first readings.
Right,
Yeah, we vote on them.
We
for
vote on the
reading.
first reading?
yeah, because there might be
Yeah, we
spelling
approve 'em.
errors.
We approve them for first reading and then we,
Okay. But we didn't vote yet.
okay, all in favor?
You didn't?
5-0. Okay, now the first reading of administration of medications policy and medications on field trips policy.
So what happened here? We didn't have one?
Well,
Is
it
that what
really
this is?
wasn't very specific, that we didn't have one, that this is new, all these things have come up recently.
I mean, because we had
I know,
something,
but I know,
medication to students.
I know, but this is very in-depth, there's lots of new rules and regulations, and who does it, and when, and,
This one, the administration of meds?
yeah.
Yep.
Right, one of the things we talked about was asking the child's birthday, but evidently they didn't think that that was necessary, because that's one of the identifiers, but just says name of student, medication, dose, and things like that, but I guess that wasn't anything that needed to be there.
Also first reading.
So you want to recommend this, make a motion for this, Jeanette?
Yeah,
for
I'll make a
first reading?
motion that this be the first reading, JLCD and JLCDE.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept these as a first reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor? So moved. have written in here, a minor adjustment to the volunteer policy. Do you have anything
Well,
on that? Or
no,
what?
that
It was written
was
in
number
as an
7.
8-4.
Number 7, for the liability insurance. But I noticed that, I know there's another part.
There's a
that
policy.
We had a policy, the first reading was in June in 2013, and it was passed July 9th in 2013. But I guess something was left out here on a legal part here
Okay.
about provide liability insurance.
Number 7. So this really isn't a new policy. This is just an adjustment to a policy that's already in place. And the adjustment is, as you'll see on number 7, the school, Acton School provide liability insurance protection for volunteers while performing assigned services.
Right, but what's not on the back of this, I noticed, is what's on the back of the policy that we passed, IGOC, volunteer questionnaire. We passed that.
Oh, it needs to be on here.
It needs to be on
As a
here.
procedure?
Yeah.
Background.
Background, charge of investigated, conviction of crime, that should, we need that.
So that's for the
too.
person to fill out, right?
Right.
Does it have a thing on it? Actually, somebody recently asked me a question about this. Do we need the permission to do background check? Is there anything that's saying that we will do a background check so that they're aware of
It
it?
just,
Yes.
ta-
It's on
right.
there?
About halfway through the
Right.
page, there's a question. Are you,
Do you mind if we look into, if there's
Right.
any question on the top, can we go look?
Is that what it says? There?
Well, that's in essence of what it
Okay.
says. I mean,
Well, no, because the way you said it there is if there's any issues, but the language here is always will be performed regardless.
right, and my
Reference and
signature.
criminal background checks.
Right, and then it says here, my signature below constitutes authorization to check criminal arrest and conviction records, reference checks, and release of any investigatory information
saying?
possessed by the state, local, or federal.
Just making sure.
You can be fingerprinted, anything that we need to investigate that comes under this policy, they have the right to investigate.
We do.
Yes, we do.
But it says, so that's my question is, according to the language here, well, I've got two questions. One is, how much does it cost? Two is, and is something we need to budget for, because I don't know how many volunteers we have. And, because it says here that, according to the policy, we will do it every time. So it just seems,
I can tell you
It
that
doesn't-
up until that point,
I just want to make sure there's not a contradiction between the back side of this, which I'm not seeing, and the front side.
I know the backside that she's talking about, the policy you're looking at, I have not yet seen.
Okay.
So
You
I
mean the
don't know.
questionnaire?
No, I know the questionnaire. What he's holding in his hand, I've never seen.
Okay.
The policy is in the policy manual, it's just we're adding line 7, so that's there.
It's the
School
same thing.
It's the same.
But you said
Say-
that the
There
one
has
from
been a
June, did you
policy
not see
in
that one
place.
either?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I don't, that we will always do this.
Yeah.
It says we will in this policy.
So I'm agreeing with Kevin that having that in there means we need to know how and how much it'll cost us.
So,
Where does it-
the actual line says, reference and criminal background checks, including sex offender registry checks, will be performed for all prospective volunteers who will work regularly in the school or in potentially unsupervised settings with students.
The way that's rated, that's not discretionary. That is, if you're going to be
So-
with kids, you're getting background checked.
Right, and so this
We gotta
costs
pick up the
money.
tab.
Yes.
So criminal background costs money.
Well,
To that extent, absolutely.
And I have no idea.
It's $75 to go and get fingerprinted, and then you have another $15 you have to send to the state to get the report back. That gives you your little card with
About
your
$100 per
criminal-
person? $90 per person?
$75
Come up the
altogether,
first
Gotcha.
time.
And that's good for how many years?
8 years.
How many volunteers do we have roughly?
Half a dozen?
Gosh, it depends on what we're talking. We're talking about OM and PTG and senior
Field
volunteers and field.
Chaperones for field trips.
Yeah, well,
We
we
need-
passed this in July as the second reading.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah,
been
but this
discussed
is
with the
talking
staff.
about, what you're talking about.
But now we got
when
putting
you're talking
policy
about
into
chaperones and things
practice.
like that on field trips.
This is the point of
this is
these
talking about
conversations, to make sure we follow policy.
Unsupervised settings. Okay, that's a little bit different.
necessarily. Field trips, a lot of times you are
Field trip,
supervised.
those parents go off with groups of children and they're unsupervised. So my question would be, if this policy was put in place June 2013, every volunteer who has stepped into this building since then has had a criminal background check. Chaperones, PTG, volunteers, everybody should have had that done if this policy was in place.
This policy was in place before 2013.
Okay, so everybody
Right?
who
This
comes
isn't,
to
this is
building
not a
says-
new policy,
It
is
was
it?
updated. I mean,
It was
that was
updated.
updated from back, but they were much less
Various-
words.
right.
just
But it's
Sketchy.
never implemented.
Pardon me?
What good is having a policy if it isn't implemented?
Right, that's what we're saying.
I've been
Right.
pushing to see the policy for.
What was the first
half
date
year.
of the, what was the first
First-
date of the
First reading was June 13.
update?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of the update.
But
there was one.
But there was a
Very
policy in
old.
place
Right,
already.
right.
Right, but didn't include
Brian.
this
It didn't
extent.
talk, well, it
No.
wasn't-
So one of my questions
Very
would be
basic,
to
yeah.
the school board,
well,
to have a discussion about who falls under this volunteer. You know, does every parent who comes help out in their child's classroom fall under this category? You know, that's a lot of money.
Who right now is being, is having this done?
The only ones that have it done,
Mandatory that?
mandatory, are all the teachers, ed techs,
Substitutes.
substitutes, any of us.
Any
But
staff
we pay for it.
All the staff members, they're already,
The
Yeah, but these aren't-
fingerprinting cost, we pay for it.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Should be
No,
free.
In other words,
No,
we as
This
us,
is not the,
not the school.
Not the school, right, okay, individual
Right.
teachers.
Individual, I mean, yes, I
This-
paid it, you paid it.
this does not say fingerprinting. This does not require volunteers to be fingerprinted.
It's a Cory check. It's a-
But I wanted to, and again, the reason I brought this up is that I wasn't sure, because not saying what's on the back, one, if we don't want the language to be contradictory, but two is if we're not doing it, we need to start doing it. A question I have is with the line with that Judy read, reference to criminal background checks, including sex offender registry checks, will be performed for all prospective employees. I'm not sure even if there's a range. My gut feeling is that you can do a quick preliminary, you could probably do a quick check, and then there's more advanced checks. I know nothing about any of that, but so it would be good to maybe have a conversation regarding what's the practice that we want to employ in order to adhere to the policy. And it sounds as if we need to have a practice conversation in regards to what are our practice to make sure we're complying with the policy. And it sounds like that's the question.
I actually think that $15 that you do to the state is your background check, not the fingerprinting part, but you have to submit in an application that's. it's
I know other districts are like that.
Yeah, and.
CR, CH, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I believe there's some
And
that,
they do- and that's a
there's some
less
you can do,
expensive.
there's some that I believe you can do like almost instantaneous.
Well, I
So
know
how about
that
I give
people-
Deputy Shaw a call tomorrow, Dan?
That'd be great.
Start
Who,
there?
um,
Who will be
Al-
on your
lawyer
list to
at
have
the
tests? I mean, just new people or everyone who ever comes in this school? That is the problem.
I think what we're
How
talking
big is
about
your
is,
list? Is
I-
it minimal or is it everyone?
my feeling is it would be people that volunteer to come into the building regularly.
Coaches, are the coaches?
So
Coaches have to be.
the criteria, the
Coaches have to
criterion
be-
for this would be referencing criminal background checks, including sex offender. And again, a lot of this language comes from recommendations by the state. So, including sex, yada, 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 who will work regularly in the schools or in potentially unsupervised settings with students. So there's some discretion there. But basically, we don't want people we don't know unsupervised with our kids. So could we put it maybe for I don't think there's a question in regards to the policy, but I think there are questions in regards to the practice. So at a future meeting, it might be good if we can, if you want to have a conversation with Sheriff Shaw in regards to what would be the recommended practices for us to
Let's see if we
comply
get this on the agenda for
with this with
our March
fidelity.
meeting
Yeah.
to narrow down just who we want to,
Yeah, we can table this.
yes.
I'm usually someone that likes so much less regulation than more regulation, but I have this is a tough balancing act and a tough juggling act, and I have a personal story about it, to be honest with you. Many years ago, several years ago, when my son was in the elementary school, the elementary end, You remember this, Patty?
I do.
Yeah, he was gonna go on a field trip. And, just very great, going on a field trip. They had a bunch of chaperones. I was standing in the office, and I look and I see one of the chaperones go by, and I look at that guy and I go, wait a minute. I had perused through the sex offender registry. I happened to look at, be looking, because I was curious, obviously, as a teacher and parent in the town, and I had seen all the different sex offenders that were registered, and I looked and I recognized him. I said, you know what? I think that is a registered sex offender. Of course, you don't want to make a big scene. So we immediately went real quickly. We cross-referenced, and sure enough, I go, what's he doing? He's going on the little kid's field trip down here. He was headed on to the field trip with my son. Well, I immediately oh my God! I went to the superintendent and said, look, I'm telling you, this is the sex offender registry. This is him, and he's headed down the hall right now to go on a field trip with the kids. And the superintendent at that time was Brian Beeler. He went down and masterfully went through and took care of the situation, escorted, asked him, are you a registered sex offender in the state of Maine? The guy said, yes, I am. I need to escort you from the building. Boom, 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 like that. Did all the stuff he needed to do, and it was over. But that was right. That wasn't down the road somewhere. That wasn't 100 miles from here. That was right here.
And it was a.
So it's tough. I mean, it's such a joke.
And
this
this
was a one time. It's the only time he had ever chaperoned, or attempted to. Anytime anybody had ever seen him.
And he had a grandchild or something that in the class, so it was a family member of one of the kids. That's how it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So it's a joke. It's a tough balance.
So an additional question I have is, one, I think it's worth looking at what the practices are, make sure that the resources there to support it. Two, again, if Tricia can check up on that, we might need to add it to the line item in the budget.
Yeah.
What do the other schools do, Jeanette? Did you do comparisons to find out there?
No, I mean, this was that far back. I mean, we're talking a year ago,
Right.
and somewhere along the line, well, see, now these come from like legal references from the
Right.
state. That's where a great many of these policies come
Yeah.
from.
And for
So
me,
whatever they said, I mean,
and the policy for me personally resonates as common sense. I mean, we want to do our due diligence. But this seems to, some policies I think are easier to implement, others are not. I think this was one that's probably worth scrutinizing, the actual practices we have in
yeah,
place.
just
And
table it.
when it comes to a final resolution, and it's very clear, I think this is one that has to be sent out to the staff very directly, and parents, the PTG, people who are used to doing things a certain way will need to be informed that the way is different now, and this is how, and this is why. I think we'll really need to make sure that the communication is there.
Yes.
While I'm, in full support, we need to protect the children, but we also need to turn around and make sure that this policy covers protection of the volunteers. Right.
Yes.
If the volunteer is put in a situation where they're supervising a group of children and something happens, and a child gets hurt, and all of a sudden that parent decides to sue, all of a sudden all the staff is all covered by liability insurance.
That's the part we just amended, right?
That's the part we just added. That's the part that we. That's the part that we just added.
Because I've been put in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the part that was just added says, the Acton School will provide liability insurance protection for volunteers while performing assigned services. So that's the one thing that was just added anew to the policy.
Because we say if I'm supervising some children after school, and all of a sudden comes 4 o'clock, and I was to leave, and all of a sudden that child is waiting for pickup by his parent. The parents never show up. And then all of a sudden something happens, kid gets picked up by somebody else or whatnot, and the parent finds out, now he's all upset. Who was the adult that was supervising? Why did they do that? So as I say, there's got to be some guidelines for the parents or the adult volunteers.
And that would be procedural, I think, through whatever the activity is.
Right, yeah.
Not necessarily policy, but procedural for whatever the activity is.
And the other piece too is sensitive to how hard it is to get volunteers. We don't want
Scare
this
them all. Scare them
project,
away,
this
yeah.
process to be cumbersome on their part. That's why I think it's important to point out they don't have to get fingerprinted, but we still need to do our due diligence. Want to be able to do it, check them out, but also get as many in here as we can. Thought it good.
Well, I'm just reading this black print here on the back. By the signature below, it doesn't mean that they cannot be checked further. Even if they check off no all on the top of these questions, it doesn't mean that we can't go look.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't.
You could do that irregardless of
Their permission.
having
Well,
a
it's, the
permission.
policy says that we will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Policy says that background checks will be performed for all
Right.
respective volunteers.
And I would just make sure on the back that as a volunteer, it's only fair to say, our policy says we will, and the volunteers should know, we will.
right, because by them signing this, gives the school permission to go look
Correct.
it up. And isn't that a little bit better than having everybody fingerprinted all at once and investigated all at once, or to, I mean,
Fingerprinting is-
this is gonna be costly, right? No, I don't know.
Background
check is a
My
lot
gut feeling, my gut feeling is, based on what this says, doing a background check, I would assume could be somewhat quick and not too expensive. But we want a lot of volunteers, and some line items are a few $100s, so we should make sure we got it.
Right, so, all right, well, we can table this then.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to table the policy. We can amend the policy. And
This
add
is the
line
first reading,
7.
and then on the second reading, we can
No,
look at.
this isn't.
Now, this
this
is an
isn't a-
amendment, so we
This isn't a first
can-
reading. We
Huh?
we can vote to accept the amendment of number 7 as printed, so why
Yeah,
don't
and
we,
then
why
we're
don't
done
we
with it.
do that? Why don't we vote to accept the addition of number 7, which is providing liability insurance protection.
Do we have to
for
accept now, or do we have
volunteers.
to do a first and second read on this, or we
No,
don't?
this
this
is already in
already-
place.
So this is
a-
just an amendment.
This is not a
We state
change
the
to the
amendment and
policy,
it's
just
done.
an
What about the back part of it? Is that
update.
part of the policy, or is that something that doesn't belong in the policy, that's just
It's
sort of a?
probably the form that goes with
The
the
practice.
policy.
It's part of
It was a
the-
You know, there's
separate-
part of the
procedures, which
policy
are,
because it says in here that they will fill that out.
Right, it didn't get printed on the back of
And
that. I
forms
just took it out of my
RE.
book and
Gotcha.
brought it in because,
So what I'd like to do for this one is, well, maybe we'll vote, but I would like in the second vote, because I'd like to see the back.
so
no,
why don't we
that's a
just,
separate, that's like, that would be IJOC hyphen E. That's what that would be, because that's the form that goes with the policy.
But I think it would be good to vote on this number 7 tonight so that that's
Done.
done, okay? So would somebody better make a motion that we amend policy IJOC to add number 7, Acton School will provide liability insurance protection for volunteers while performing assigned services.
So moved.
all right, and we can go back over it on the questionnaire, make sure that
Do I hear a
it's
second
attached.
from somebody on the
Yeah.
committee?
Somebody
No, we
vote.
didn't hear a second from the committee.
A second!
I heard a second, but I'm not sure it came from me. Any discussion?
I was like, I heard
All
a
in
woman's
favor?
voice.
And then we'll bring, for next meeting, we'll bring back the.
Well, that should go to the policy subcommittee
Yeah.
to look over.
Which
You're
hopefully
on
I will
that.
attend one of these.
Just letting you know.
I don't know what.
I hear the next meeting of the policies in New Mexico.
I don't know.
Okay, so
don't wanna go there.
under number 9, unfinished
New
business,
Mexico.
we just need to be reminded that we do have a school committee retreat scheduled for 2/26
Yes, I have a question about
at
that.
3 o'clock. Mr. Perks will be preparing the agenda.
Yes, in order to prepare, we have 3 hours scheduled, am I correct?
3 to
Yes.
6, I believe it was,
So.
with food. Wasn't that the idea?
Yes, food.
I
Right.
promised corn chowder, I did. I'm not afraid of bribing.
So my question to the school committee is, 3 hours is a good chunk of time, but there's a lot to do. What is our objective? And a way to perhaps think, in doing the agenda, I'm very objective oriented, so I want to make sure we accomplish whatever the objective is. What do we want to accomplish?
I think we had talked about
I do have it
working
there.
on
So it was in there.
coming up with
You already
a
put it in?
plan for teacher
So we
evaluations.
must have
That
talked
was
about
one. to solidify something for teacher evaluations.
Understanding PLCs better?
How the strategic plan is fitting into these Common Core things.
So that last one
Be sure
about
that we
Common
have-
Core?
Be sure that we have our Common Core, our SMART goals lined up to fit into the strategic plan.
Repeat that. Sorry.
We talked about making sure that the SMART goals that the staff has been developing are in line with what we're trying to accomplish in this first year of our strategic plan.
So, I don't have those. Would it be possible to get those?
Your SMART goals?
Teacher, what is it, the administrative SMART goals? I think it's the
Yeah, I think we were talking about administrative
administrative
SMART goals.
goals.
Ken can get those all together for us.
So, a couple follow-up questions. Those are great, those are large for 3 hours. So, in regards to teacher evaluation, when you envision sort of the end of the 3 hours in regards to teacher eval, and others can jump in on this one too, is what would you want to be able to do at the end of that workshop that you wouldn't be able to do walking in? So, by the end of that workshop, I will be able to what?
I'll be able to have a clearer understanding as to what the objectives are going to be in teacher evaluations as they relate to instruction.
Student learning.
That's
What do you
basically-
teach? What do you
basically,
do, Kevin?
That's where we've got to go.
You have to
according
teach
to the
us.
state.
Well, that's-
I think that's one of the pieces that need to be added, if I can suggest, that we need to know.
This is why I'm
what is
asking the question.
latest- What is the latest from the state about requirements and decisions? How much decision-making is left now at the local level, and how much is already dictated from the state?
Right, so I just heard a few different things, so these are all good. Again, because 3 hours, we'll achieve the goal, but if it's fuzzy, then I just give you random stuff. And
Well, we don't want fuzzy.
that's it, I'm not a fan of fuzzy.
Fuzzy man.
So you want to be able
I think
to,
we need to be sure that we're meeting what the state tells us we need to be meeting in the area of teacher evaluation.
so if you can leave that meeting, being able to explain what the state requirements are around teacher evaluation, we'd be in a good place as a
happy
board.
campers.
Awesome, so good, be able to explain state regs regarding teacher eval.
And we need, and I think along with that, we need some kind of a template that we're going to be working with here in our own system.
An opportunity
That
for
lines
teachers
up
and
with
the
that.
board
We can
to
look
talk
at what
about
we
it.
have.
Something that we can get to the teachers.
Let's look
for
at what we
the teachers to
have.
look at. They need to,
Because we have something.
I think.
What do we
so.
have as far as timelines right now? How often, or what's going on right now?
Been a long
What,
time.
once a year? I mean, like, teachers get evaluated,
Yeah, teacher evaluations, how often?
right?
Should be twice a year. so-
Continuing contract teachers get a final evaluation, a formal evaluation every other year. They're either on an A or B cycle. But everybody sets goals every year and has a meeting or several meetings about those goals and a chance to show, if it's a 2-year goal, then at the end of the first year, they're showing the progress they've made. If it's the end of their second year, then based on their choice of evaluation, portfolio or presentation, whatever, it gets written up.
So what I understand at this point is you'd want to be able to explain the state regulations regarding teacher evaluations and be able to analyze what we currently have in regards to that and decide what we want moving forward.
Yes, perfect.
Yes, that's
Great.
good. That's not fuzzy, that's not.
This is what I usually do, so this is why I'm asking
Well,
these
that's
questions.
why I'm
helping
asking
too.
you what
This
you
is
do
what-
for a living,
This is
Kevin.
what I do, can you tell? The other question is, right there, that could be 3 hours, if not more. So we have to make decisions. PLCs, the question is, if we want to do PLCs and SMART goals, I'm thinking the workshop can focus on one of those. Which one is the most important? So the teacher eval one's good.
Smart goals, I think.
So same question in regards to SMART goals. What would you want to be able to do at the end of that workshop that you wouldn't be able to do walking in regards to SMART goals in the strategic plan?
Well, I don't understand the SMART goals, so.
Well, I think,
That's
We have
a
to
good goal.
I think we need to know what our benchmarks are for the strategic plan for this first year. I think we need to see where we're going with that and look at the SMART goals in relationship to that.
We have the mission and vision.
Mhm.
We have the
Right.
goals, but we don't have the plan that's in between.
It's not fleshed out,
No.
the strategic plan, it's not fleshed out.
So, if we could leave that meeting with a slightly more detailed plan, we'd be good. So if we could, you said you could walk away.
All right, so go back and do that.
So of the three, the SMART goals, PLC's teacher evaluation, SMART goals, where we want to go. And we want to be able to be able to explain our role better in regards to supporting the strategic plan
Exactly.
moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. I will need the SMART goals then.
I think,
Fabulous.
yeah, and I think, we need to get on the teacher evaluation thing soon. I think that should be our priority, so that we can have something too that the staff can look at, so that they'll understand what the procedure is and what the steps are and give feedback.
So that could be, can I speak?
Mm.
That could be part of the strategic plan because it will give you a timeline. So that could be fleshed out so you know what you want to accomplish by what time. And really, that's also dictated by the state, correct? So I mean, you could do both things, in terms of fleshing out the teacher eval and looking at how it reflects the strategic plan.
Perhaps,
Is that,
maybe.
or at least
Maybe.
look at.
Because it's an element of the teacher,
Right, an
of the
element.
strategic plan.
Okay?
I think that's enough to go on for now. That's great, thank
All
you.
right, good. Then I will ask for motion to go into executive session, which will be very brief, by the way.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 7, I was at, what? 8 something?
8:20.
8:20. To,
8:20, and I haven't had a phone call.
regarding personnel
I told
issue.
him before I left. It'll be a long meeting, so-
Anybody second that?
All those in favor? Thank you all.